Endurance Junkie Podcast, episode 34. Hey Junkie, what's up? Welcome to another episode of the Endurance Junkie Podcast, the show where I will be interviewing some of the fastest, smartest, and most inspiring people active in the endurance world today. And I'm really excited to be joined by Rowyn James, who's the race director of one of the world's most iconic races, the Comrades Marathon in South Africa. Rowyn started his career as a sports marketing manager for Nike South Africa before getting involved in the organising committee of the Pretoria Marathon. Before joining the Comrades team earlier this year, he was the race director for that other iconic race in South Africa, the Two Oceans Marathon. Rowyn, thanks for taking the time to chat here today. Now, for those of us who don't know you, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your sporting background growing up in South Africa?
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thanks very much for the opportunity to have me on Endurance Junkie, and greetings to all the listeners out there. Just regarding myself, pretty much really been in the sports industry in South Africa all my life. After graduating from university, I worked in a specialist sports running shop, and then from there I moved on to Nike South Africa, where I worked for 10 years as the sponsorship manager for Nike, handling such properties as the National Springbok rugby team, the Kaizer Chiefs soccer team, as well as the Liberty Nike running club. And then two races that Nike sponsored in those days were the Comrades Marathon and the Two Oceans Marathon. So just really from my perspective, I've really been in the sporting industry all my life. I'm passionate about running myself, and we'll chat a little bit further down in the interview, but having run Comrades 15 times too. So that's really pretty much my life story and how I landed up in the sporting industry and how I continue to be in the sporting industry today.
Awesome. Now, I'm bringing you on as the current race director of one of the world's most iconic races, which is the Comrades Marathon. But before joining the Comrades team, you've been part of the organizing committee of the Pretoria Marathon, and you were the race director of the also famous Two Oceans Marathon in Cape Town. How did you get into race directing, and what do you love about it?
I think, just first and foremost, my passion for the sport is what sort of drove me in that direction. In South Africa, we have a very unique club system, if I can call it that, where everybody who wants to run road races in the country needs to belong to a club. It's unlike overseas or in Europe or Belgium or wherever, Holland, wherever you guys are, where it's not compulsory to join a club. So how that basically works is you become a member of a club and then you run in their club colours. So that's how I really got into the organising of the Pretoria Marathon, which is the club that I ran for, the Pretoria High School Old Boys Club. And they presented a race every year in February, which was a 42-kilometer standard marathon, as well as a 21-kilometer half marathon and a 10K race, and had about 12,000 entries in total. And how the club system works here is that they obviously then responsible for producing and staging and putting on their own race. And that covers everything from marshals to refreshment points to start-finish entries, all that sort of thing it takes to put a race together. So for a few years, I was a member of the club, and then ultimately ended up being on the committee of the club for 9 years in my capacity as club captain. And then eventually one of the tasks or jobs that was required there was to be the race organizer of the local road race, the Pretoria Marathon that we staged. I think it's also important to know that is all strictly and purely voluntary from that point of view. So it wasn't a paid job. So that's really how I can say I almost cut my teeth in it. From there, at that same time, I was obviously working for Nike South Africa, and at that stage they were sponsoring the Two Oceans Marathon in Cape Town. And then the current race director there, who had been the race director for 27 years, had decided that he wanted to retire. And then they made a formal approach to me, if I'd, and headhunted me across if I'd be interested in, coming on and organising the Two Oceans Marathon, which is a 56-kilometre ultra marathon in Cape Town. So then in January 2008, moved over to that, and then organised that for 6 years. And then very fortunately, the opportunity came available in March this year to be the race director of Comrades, which I certainly jumped at because in South Africa, without a doubt, Comrades is the number one race. The Two Oceans Marathon will always be number two. So that's pretty much how I became involved in race directorship in terms of road running. Cut my teeth at Pretoria Marathon, formalized it at Two Oceans Marathon, and I'm now living it out at the Comrades Marathon.
Yeah, cool. Now that club system is pretty interesting. Like, why is it like that? Is it for health reasons, to protect runners? Do they need to be screened or something physically before they can run?
What it really comes down to, it's just the way that the federation has actually set up the sport in this country, and the federation here really is funded by the clubs. So you pay a membership fee to join the clubs, and then in turn with that you get what's known as a license number, and that fee of the license number is paid directly over to the federation. So in a way, it's the way that the federation funds itself. But what it also does do, maybe it's happened almost by default, that it fosters an incredible amount of club camaraderie and spirit within your fellow club mates and that sort of thing. Because once weekly you have club runs from a designated area, and then after that, everybody can get together in the pub or whatever from that point of view. So. At weekend road races around the country, and the South African road running system is extremely well established, where there's over 880 races in the year around the country. So literally every single Saturday and Sunday in the main centres like Pretoria, Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, there's a road race. From that point of view, and as you all run in club colours, you run in the same colours naturally. In terms of the kit, you foster great camaraderie and goodwill and good spirit from that point of view. So that's how the club system really operates in this country.
Okay, I can see that, but it sort of creates an extra hurdle for people who want to give it a try. I mean, I see it here in Belgium. When I started triathlon, I'm talking about 96, 97, we sort of had the same system in place, and you had to be a member of a triathlon club if you wanted to race. You needed that license number to enter a race. But it turned out to be, I think, a bit of an extra hurdle for a lot of people who wanted to give the sport a try. And then they opened it up a bit more, and it allowed people to buy one-day licenses and see if they liked it before actually joining a club. But these one-day licenses, that's not possible in South Africa.
No, you can. What you can do there in the shorter races, in other words, anything up to the standard marathon, 42 kilometers. If runners don't want to join a club, they don't have to. But then what ends up happening is that every road race that they run, they've got to pay an additional fee over the normal race entrance fee. So naturally, if you're going to be a regular runner, running races regularly every weekend, then paying that extra fee every single time eventually adds up, and it would more or less cover the cost of what a membership fee would be to join the club. So the whole emphasis around that is that if you're going to run regularly, it's to your benefit financially to rather join the club. If you're going to be a recreational runner and run one or two races, then you don't have to join the club, because you're only going to pay a once-off entrance fee once or twice, and then it doesn't add up from a cost perspective. So you do have that alternative, but I think because of the road running as a sport in this country is so strong, as I said, it fosters that great camaraderie that people actually want to be a member of the club.
No, cool. No, I can definitely see how it creates like a club culture and camaraderie. Now you guys have Comrades obviously in Two Oceans, and then the Cape Epic Mountain Bike Challenge, the Cape Town Cycle Tour, Ironman South Africa has been there for quite a while now. You guys are putting on some quite amazing events in South Africa. What is it about South African endurance events? I thought you guys were all about cricket and rugby.
Yeah, we like to believe that, but very much so. And I think we're really, in a way, Peter, where it starts, it goes back to the isolation years, when obviously apartheid was still very dominant in South Africa, and then the country obviously had to be, in terms of sporting events and hosting that sort of thing, had to be self-sufficient and self-sustainable, because there was no support from international, whether it be in the form of participants or TV coverage. And also, just on TV coverage, the country didn't get any other sporting events globally to screen locally. So the country had to look inward in terms of what sort of events they could put on host. The Comrades Marathon, for argument's sake, has 13 hours of live TV coverage. And that's why it's become such an iconic institution in the country, amongst other things. It's become a household name because during the isolation years, there was nothing else that South Africa could watch sporting-wise. Except things like Comrades. So I think that's where the culture, in a way, started with it. Obviously, Comrades has a very long history and ethos going right back to 1921, but we can touch on that a bit later. But I think, the country has grown up in just being I'm almost going to say an ultra mad based country in terms of events. And as you said, it's right across all sporting codes. I mean, the cycle tour in Cape Town is 109 kilometers, and it's the biggest time cycle race in the world. The Absa Cape Epic that has been going for just on 10 years now as well. It attracts the best in the world, but it's one of the hardest. It is the hardest mountain bike race around. So South Africa, one of the areas where race organizers are very good at in terms of expertise is the attention to detail. And I think that's also one of the reasons why the events have become so established and strong over time as well, because we've really had to focus on putting on a top-notch event. And then just recently, when I say recently, in about the last 10 to 12 years, the local government has passed legislation whereby they put a sport and recreation act through Parliament just to safeguard and make events more safer. So there's very stringent rules and regulations in place and in administering an event as well in terms of safety of athletes, participants, as well as spectators, which we have to adhere to as race organizers before we can actually put on an event. And I think that's what ultimately has led to the amazing success of the events that we do stage here in South Africa.
Yeah, cool. And of course, it's also a very nice holiday destination. So people coming over with the whole family and cheer the athletes during the race, and then, maybe take some time off afterwards and visit the country. Comrades. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Peter, as well, you're quite right, and naturally as well, it's a very cheap country at the moment because for you guys the euro is so strong, so and the currency units of international, so people come down here for a fraction of the price of a holiday, and we've definitely seen that in terms of Comrades, just in the growth of numbers over the last few years of international runners. And, so you're quite right.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a bit further about Comrades. Because for those of us who maybe don't know it, can you tell us quickly what it is and why it is such a special event?
The Comrades was started in 1921, and how it was basically started or formulated in Family Park was the founder, Vic Clapham, wanted to do something to honor the heroes and comrades who had fallen in the Great War of World War One, which a lot of it obviously took place in your home country of Belgium and Flanders and that sort of area as well. So that was the founding thing around Comrades Marathon. So in the first year, in 1921, just 34 hardy souls lined up outside the City Hall of Pietermaritzburg to run a 90-kilometer race all the way down to Durban on the coast. And Comrades basically developed from there. Next year, we will be hosting our 90th running of the Comrades Marathon. And the only years that the Comrades Marathon did not take place was during the Second World War years of 1939 to 1945. So apart from that, the race has grown exponentially year on year. It varies every year between what's known as an up run and a down run. So a down run starts at Pietermaritzburg, which is the capital of the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the runners run down to Durban, which is a seaside city. And then naturally the following year with an up run, they just run the course in reverse. So they start in Durban and run inland to Pietermaritzburg. The distance varies slightly. The up run is roughly 87 kilometers and the down run is roughly 89 kilometers. And the reason for the difference is just the start and finish in the respective cities is in a different place. At the moment, for next year's race, being the 90th anniversary, we're just on 15,900 entries, and we will get it up to in the region of about 22,000 entries. The biggest race that Comrades had was in the year 2000, where just over 20,000 entrants finished the race. The runners have 12 hours in which to do the race as well. So I think that's pretty much just really what Comrades is about. There's various colored medals along the way. The course record for the men is 5 hours and 24 minutes, and for the ladies is 6 hours and 9 minutes.
No. Can anyone enter, or is there some sort of a qualifying system?
Yes, anybody can enter the race, local or international. The only qualification required is that an athlete needs to run a standard marathon 42 kilometers in under 5 hours, and that qualifying race needs to be done between the 1st of August 2014 until the 1st of May 2015. So that's it. So pretty much for all the international athletes and your listeners out there, they don't need to belong to a club or anything like that. That's the only thing they need to do. And then they can go online to www.comrades comrades.com, very easy email address, and then on the homepage is the entry portal. They have until the end of November in which to enter if they would want to. How we do the entry system as well, Peter, is that people can enter now and then supply their qualifying details later. So they do not need to run a qualifier first. They can enter and then by May next year supply their qualifying race of a marathon in under 5 hours.
So what if they can't supply that? Their slot goes to someone else?
Well, if they do not qualify, then obviously they forfeit the entry, and then we do have what we know is a substitution period whereby athletes are then allowed to substitute their race number out. So, for argument's sake, if the entrant does not qualify, he can substitute his entry to somebody who never entered the race but as an interim has run a sub 5 hour marathon and would like to run Comrades Marathon. If they don't take that up, then obviously they forfeit the entry and we just donate the money to charity.
Yeah, cool. This year's race was held in June, I think, and it was your first as a race director of Comrades. How did it all go down? Were you happy with how everything went? And were there maybe any issues that you going to need to address for next year's race?
Yes, I think that's the secret of the success of Comrades, Peter. There's an incredible team of supporters and staff and behind the scenes. And that's ultimately while I might be the man at the top who holds it all together. It's certainly them that all put it together. So I certainly couldn't do it without them. I've got an incredible staff here in the office, and then what we call an ROC, Race Organising Committee. So between all of us, we put it all together. And so yes, while I came into the job with just under 2 months to race day, I was able to pick up the baton and run with it quickly, so to speak, because obviously having had the previous experience and the office team had ensured that the job had gone on in the absence of a race director. One area that we will need to focus on is our registration area. In other words, the 3 days before the race, all the runners need to come down to the expo and registration and register. And then we did have unacceptably long queues this year. But I certainly, with my team, have identified what the problems were and we know what to do to fix it next year. So we're certainly working towards next year with a seamless registration process. Other than that, on race day, everything went off extremely well.
All right. Now, you've run it 15 times yourself. You mentioned that before. And how did you feel on race day? Did you feel like putting on a pair of runners and jump in there yourself, or was that a bit different this time?
Very much so. Very different, Peter. I had my incredible running years, and I like to work on the caption that I used to run Comrades. Now Comrades runs me. So to speak. So, no, I certainly didn't miss it at all on the day from the point of view of thinking that I could be out there running it. It's a 6-month commitment in terms of training, really, to get to the start line. But I think what really made it special for me is that I could relate to what all the athletes were going through on the day because I've been through it 15 times myself. So that for me is what really made it special. And then I think over and above that really was just the pure fact that to see the agony and the ecstasy of all the athletes coming over the line, and then just knowing that me with my team, my staff and ROC here have certainly given everybody a memorable experience, and I think that was really made it key on the day.
Yeah. Now, where do you see Comrades in 5 or 10 years? I mean, ultra running, adventure racing, all that sort of extreme racing is booming all over the world. And I'm guessing your participant numbers are continuing to go up in the next coming years, especially from an international point. What are the major issues you think you're going to have to tackle to be able to grow the race further?
I think key really is that just in today's day and age is that time is becoming more and more limited. So for people to try and find the time to put in the dedication to train is certainly going to be one of the, obviously there's nothing that I can really do to address that, but that will always be a key factor. But I think really the key thing that's Comrades would need to focus on in the next 5 to 10 years. So while the numbers are growing, yes, is that the average age of the athlete is basically growing 1 year on year. So we've really got to look at trying to attract the younger runner. And when I'm talking the younger runner, I'm talking anybody in their mid-30s. At the present moment, the average age of the participants is 44 years old. So 5 to 10 years from now, obviously all that's really happened is that those runners have moved up within the pyramid, so to speak. But there's no new or youngsters or younger blood coming in. So that's one of the areas that we as Comrades have got to focus on. And we're doing that through ways that we've got exciting road shows naturally in the country here, workshops specifically, novice seminars as well, to try and attract, number one, new runners to the sport, and then number two, younger runners to the sport to ensure the sustainability of the event going forward. At the moment, we're really experiencing a boom in numbers, and I think maybe one of the factors could be due to the tough economic times globally at the moment. People don't have a lot of money to, for argument's sake, go and join golf memberships, and running, as we all know, and like all endurance sports, you would know that being a triathlete yourself it's a good stress reliever as well. And it's a cheap sport. You can do it anywhere, anytime. You don't need a team. You don't need a field or anything like that. So certainly age is going to be one of the key things that we as comrades are going to need to work on going forward.
Is that something that maybe you can do by hosting other events that are more focused towards those young runners, or are you guys just sticking with Comrades for now?
At the moment, Peter, we're certainly just sticking with Comrades, and because of the long history and ethos and tradition of Comrades, with that, from that point of view, there's not really an interest from the participants to have other events, albeit shorter events on the day. So no, at the moment we're just purely sticking with the Comrades Marathon as it is in its entirety. But who knows? Maybe 5 to 10 years from now, the board who govern the event may see a different direction or strategy, and would look at additional events like that. But for the moment, no, we're only sticking to the one race on the one day, being roughly 90 kilometers.
Oh, cool. What has been your proudest moment in your career as a race director?
It's when I thought of the questions, I thought, that'd be a very interesting one. And I think there are many, but for me, it really would be standing on the line on the day, and this when that gun goes, and knowing that all that hard work and that the team has put in behind the scenes has now come to fruition, and just really seeing the joy and elation of the athletes of getting the medal on the other side once they finish the race as well. So I think we've certainly got to put that down as one of the proudest or defining moments of the Comrades Marathon. Okay.
And your biggest disappointment?
It's a tough one, but with the nature of being in the game of organising ultra marathons and in fact half marathons, is that in my tenureship in the few years that I've been a race director of both Two Oceans and of Comrades, is that there have been deaths along the way of athletes who have passed on for whatever reason participating in the event. So that is always a disappointment, and but it's part of the job, and it's really just to ensure that as an event organizer, there's nothing that we've compromised on, and certainly we haven't. We had very strong medical plans in place at the Two Oceans Marathon as well as in the Comrades Marathon, but it'll always be a disappointment and a bit of a sadness on the day that somebody has passed on doing something that they love.
Yeah, true that. Do you still find time to run and race?
Peter, not as much as I would like to. Unfortunately, the job does require quite a bit of time, but that's certainly not an excuse. As I mentioned, my good running days are over from longer distance, so I just do the odd shorter race, maybe a 10k and then a 21, just to keep ticking over. So certainly it helps keep the weight in check, it just keeps the health and fitness there to a degree. But certainly, will not be running any of the longer distance races anymore. Marathons, 56k and 90ks are beyond me at this stage.
All right, awesome. All right, thanks for your time, Rowyn. This is about all we have for today. I hope a lot of listeners have learned something about Comrades and are definitely willing to one day make the trip over to South Africa and race this iconic race. How can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Peter, thank you. It's been a fantastic opportunity to chat to you and all the Endurance Junkie listeners, and I certainly hope that some of them in time will come out, and hopefully you will as well one day.
Oh, yeah.
And they always say with Comrades that you're not a runner in South Africa until you've run Comrades, and then they go one further and say that you have to run an up and a down. So, but anybody who would really like to get in contact with us, there are various means. We have an email that they can get hold of us at info@comrades.com. Quite easy, or otherwise, alternatively, if they would like to call the office from outside of South Africa, it would be +27 33 897 8650. So I'll just give that number again: +27 33 897 8650. So either on the telephone number or an email, info@comrades.com, or on the website comrades.com.
All right, cool. I'll definitely make sure to put all those on the show notes page so people can find them quite easily. Now, I'm guessing you can't put on such an event without some support from great sponsors and partners, so feel free to give some love to them.
Yeah, very much so. Thank you, Peter. Certainly the race wouldn't be possible without incredible support of our sponsors, suppliers, and partners. So how Comrades just works is that we have 4 major sponsors. That being Nedbank, which is a big banking group in South Africa, Old Mutual, which is a big life insurance company in South Africa, Bonitas, which is a big medical aid company in South Africa, and then Flora Margarine, which I'm sure listeners will be familiar with as they used to sponsor the London Marathon. So they're the top 4 main sponsors, and then under that we have a level of 6 tier 1 sponsors as well, which amongst others includes Coca-Cola, Energade, which is also a sports drink very similar to most probably Gatorade, what you get in the European area. Netcare 911, who is our medical supplier partner, Toyota Motor Vehicles, and the Road Accident Fund. So those are really the main sponsors that make this race happen. We have an annual turnover in the region of 33 million rand, which is roughly around about 3 million euros. To host this event year on year, and then it's a volunteer call. The race relies largely on volunteers. There's about 3,500 volunteers that work on race day as well. So it's a mammoth task behind the scenes to put it on, but it's a well-oiled machine that moves along very well.
Yeah, definitely a big shout out to all those volunteers. It definitely could not happen without them. Anything else you want to plug?
I think really I just want to thank you and Endurance Junkie for the opportunity of the interview, and I think we've pretty much covered everything. And just encourage any of the potential listeners out there to make contact with us in any of the 3 mediums I mentioned earlier if they really would like to run the race. And as someone who's run it itself and now in the hot seat, I'm not going to be unbiased, but I said it is an incredible journey. It's an incredible adventure. And the only way that you can really understand it or explain it and do justice to it is to actually come and participate in it.
Yeah, no doubt that it's a bucket list race for a lot of listeners, and it definitely is a bucket list race for me. All right, thanks for your time, Rowyn. Much appreciated.
That's very very kind of you to have me on the show, Peter, and all the best to all the listeners out there and their continued endurance training, whatever sporting code it is that they do.
All right, cheers, man.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Peter. All the best,
Alright guys, I really hope you enjoyed that chat with Rowyn today. So as you heard, there are still entries available for the 2015 Comrades Marathon. So if you want to get that off your bucket list, now is the time to do so. You can find, of course, all the entry details on our show notes page that you can find on junkiepodcast.com, or of course on the official Comrades Marathon website directly, which is www.comrades.com. Now, if you enjoyed the show and you also enjoyed all the previous episodes, can I just please ask you a couple of minutes of your time and give us a review in iTunes and a rating as well. That will really help spread the word of the show. It will able to list the show a bit higher in iTunes and make it more accessible to more people. So can I just ask a couple of minutes of your time? Go to iTunes, type in Endurance Junkie Podcast, and you will be able to leave a rating and a review there. All right. We've got Dr. Jim Aframau, and we'll be all about mental toughness. So I hope to catch you then.